Hi, I'm Ailia Zehra. Welcome to Dissent today. Today, we're going to discuss a shocking new report from the Amnesty International, according to which Pakistan is using a mass surveillance system to spy on its citizens. This system is facilitated by tech companies from China, America, and some other countries. And according to the report, the tools that are surveillance tools that are used for this purpose are so sophisticated that this may be the most extensive example of state surveillance outside of China. Now, that is definitely concerning because China is an authoritarian country and Pakistan, at least on paper, is a democracy. So, this should not be happening. It's also a violation of the Pakistani constitution, which grants every citizen the right to privacy. To discuss this report further, we are bringing in Amnesty International's Jurre Bergen, who authored this report and worked on it, researched on it alongside the team for more than a year. Welcome, Jurre. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, could you start by giving us a brief overview of the report, some of its key findings for those who may not have seen it?
Yeah, certainly. So over the past year, we've been looking into both kind of surveillance and internet censorship within Pakistan, and we wanted to find out, who are the kind of corporate actors behind it, behind specifically the LIM system that's used for surveillance and the WMS system that's used for censorship. And for this, we mainly really relied on a lot of open source material when it comes to LIM. So there's a lot of platforms out there that allows you to buy trade records where you are able to see which companies ship what kind of products do. And from this, we were able to kind of determine that two companies, particularly Data Fusion and Ultimaco, who kind of make the surveillance system, have been sending this for over a decade, since 2014, all the way to 2024. Have been shipping this kind of like surveillance systems to internet service providers in Pakistan. Reading court transcripts, what we kind of found is that there's never been a warrant obtained to wiretap people in Pakistan, which is mind-boggling that this has been going on for like such a long time. And so we've been writing allegation letters at some point to those companies in the exporting countries as these products are export controlled, asking them, can you comment on kind of our findings related to this? Has there ever been any investigation into what has been uploaded into these systems as kind of warrants? Are they, just random PDFs that get uploaded? Are they actual warrants? And we unfortunately did not receive any response from most of the companies involved in this. On the other side, there's the WMS, which is this kind of censorship kind of internet machine. So, like in 2018, when this was first kind of enacted and the tender was published by the Pakistani Telecommunications Authority, Coda Story published, I think in 2021, a story that this was powered by Dissent a company that's based in Canada. They pulled out of Pakistan in 2023, according to a response we got from them. And what we then see is that Jeets Networks, which is a Chinese company, we helped up selling a commercialized version of the Chinese firewall to Pakistan. And our investigation kind of found that was mainly powered by a leak that the consortium that we were part of obtained, was that this has been installed kind of in secret. There's been all kinds of reports over the last year. There's been internet shutdowns, there's been slowdown, there was a need for a VPN registration at some point. And right now we were able to really detail its kind of like full working, where it's been installed, that it's been licensed to the Pakistani Telecommunications Authority, that it interfaces with Pakistani telecommunications providers, and kind of like block lists that exist within Pakistan, as well as that it's been powered by, French technology from Thales. So these systems, when you buy it, you require a license. Without a license, these systems do not work, and a specific component is provided by Thales. And then as well, we've been able to document several Pakistani support companies that help with deployment, maintenance, and support at different intervals of the WMS.
Right. So you mentioned in the report that it's a huge number of citizens that are being targeted, 4 million, right? So is this something, I mean, in Pakistan, everyone, it's like a surveillance is like an open secret. Politicians get targeted. We often see audio leaks, video leaks of politicians and public figures. But we didn't know that it was happening even to ordinary citizens. Like you don't even have to be that important to be targeted by the system. So, could you speak to the number of people being targeted and how exactly does it work? Anyone in Pakistan is vulnerable, or is there any way that you can, protect yourself and your privacy?
Yeah, so I think protecting yourself is going to be quite hard, as these systems are really quite invasive. So there's we were able to kind of like come up with this number of over 4 million people that can be wiretapped simultaneously. This is one of the requirements that is provided by the PTA. They had to come clean in one of the court cases. Within that court case, there is a certain number that says like 2% of the entire population or the subscriber base need to be able to be kind of like wiretapped at the same time. And so how the system works is that it needs some kind of identifier. And so this identifier can be like a phone number that gets inserted into this LIMS system, from which then onwards, voice calls can be intercepted, as text messages, or where the mobile phone is located. What it's not able to do is like intercept like WhatsApp traffic, for example, as that's encrypted. But what it can do, of course, is that it can aid in kind of like hijacking of a WhatsApp account. So how that would work is that if a text message arrives where it gets the text message, the system then able to kind of like intercept that and then lock somebody out from that account in order to then kind of like break into that WhatsApp account. Has been kind of I think a question from civil society whether WhatsApp, whether the authorities had access to WhatsApp, but that would not be the case. There's not been real transparency around what happens in some of these monitoring centers, who has access to them, where are they located. And so from kind of what we've researched and published is that after talking with some insiders within some of the Pakistani telecommunications providers, is that they also don't really know what's going on in some of these in these monitoring centers, or who actually has access to them. One of the things that does come back from what we heard is that if the Pakistani military comes with a request for information, they cannot say no. And I think that's ultimately, the Pakistani military seems to always have a way to get the information of what they
Right.
want.
So, do they have to give a reason or a genuine pretext to seek that information, that based on national security or something like that, or can they just ask without giving a reason?
I think people are too afraid to say no. I think that's kind of the bottom line of it. Like Pakistan has a kind of history of enforced disappearances. It has a history of maybe harassment. Maybe people are afraid to say no, afraid of what they might do to family. And so it seems that there's no pretext is really required. They might say national security, but ultimately people are just able to kind of forced to give the information.
Right. Could you also speak to the impact this mass surveillance system have on people's right to free speech? They also self-censor, when they know that they're being watched at all times. Do you think it has an impact on the way people exercise their right to free speech in the country on social media and elsewhere?
I think it what we've kind of seen, and I think that as well there's been academic kind of studies, is that once people know that they might be observed or could be observed, they kind of tend to change their behavior. So that might mean that you might self-censor. That might mean that you not want to associate yourself with, like maybe it's a political party, or maybe you don't want to go to a protest, or you don't want to associate with someone just because of their, some of the ideas that they might have and kind of talk about. And so, as well as that, from some of the journalists that we've spoken to, is that one of the observations is that they don't trust some of these digital devices anymore to communicate with, as they're afraid that they might kind of like reveal locations, that they might not be able to do their job properly anymore, protect their sources. And it really has a kind of massive effect on Pakistani civil society.
Right.
Yeah, so we've been reviewing some of the court transcripts related to this case of the wife of Imran Khan, and from some of the court transcripts, they've been trying to determine where some of these audio leaks are coming from, whether there might have been the limb system that might have been involved in this, and they have been trying to find out information related to this. And one of the things that come back is that, the judges have found that no one has ever really requested, whether it's the ISI or the IB or the police, kind of a warrant to be used within the limb system. They had to explain the limb system a little bit of how it kind of works and how it interfaces, where some of the ISPs come in, but a lot of information has been kind of like held under seal or has been not published. So one of the, I think, some of the things that did not happen or was published was some of the witness statements from some of the Pakistani telecommunications providers, kind of their involvement. And with this report, we hope to kind of show is that the ISPs are kind of involved, but they are involved in a way that it's required by the PTA in order to operate within Pakistan. They need to buy these limb systems themselves and install them together with this company called Data Fusion. And so I think from that case, it has kind of like, we've been looking at this longer than that case has been going on, but it tends to show that, these systems are being abused, and these export licenses should really be reviewed and possibly halted.
Right. How long have Chinese and Western companies been helping Pakistan with this? Surveillance we know has been going on since forever, but how long has Pakistan received help from these companies?
Yeah, so kind of from 2017, 2016 onwards for the WMS, and it has been earlier for kind of the limb system. So there's been a report that we built kind of further on. So there's been a report by Privacy International. They are a UK NGO that kind of looks at surveillance systems as well. And they published a report back in 2015. They kind of show that Utimaco and Data Fusions has been active in the Pakistani markets for quite a long time, as well as under some of the previous names that they operated under, such as Tropicore and Nokia Siemens networks. And we've been able to kind of show that this has, Data Fusion seems to have sort of centralized, it's been the only provider of these systems. And I think for what we've been able to show for the WMS is that, Samsung, which is this Canadian company, they pulled out back in 23, and then quite quickly we see this Chinese company, G Networks, come in. Some of the early stages of where they even reused some of the Samsung hardware, it was repurposed in some of these other older hardware as well from a US company called Niagara Networks. So it really seems that in a way they might have been kind of in a rush to get the system back online and censor websites or have a better capability, where they were in the early stages, at least kind of like repurposing quite a lot of hardware from other Western companies.
Did the Pakistani officials respond to you at all? Were they concerned that you're, making this public, and this sort of surveillance system that they use is being reported now?
So we sent right to requests, letters back in August of this year. And as of yet, we have not obtained any answer from any of the Pakistani authorities that we've written to.
Right. Okay. In the end, can you just talk about a few quick steps that journalists or activists, or those who are in the civil society, can take when they're sharing their views on social media? Those who are active on social media, who are more vulnerable, more prone to such attacks.
Yeah, so I think one of the things, at least, is that we kind of established that social media gets censored from time to time. It seems to be a kind of arbitrary on and off which platform might be allowed. X has become accessible again in Pakistan, as far as I understand. So that's one thing. Another thing that might help is to use a trusted VPN provider, so not one that's free, and using these kind of VPN systems, at least for some part, they might not be able to see which sites you visit, but they might only be able to see that you might be using a VPN. Another thing is to always have two-factor authentication for things like WhatsApp and social media accounts. In the case that they might be able to intercept a text message, they might still not be able to kind of like break into these accounts. Two-factor, I think, is some of the most important thing, regardless of whether it's against cyber criminals or the government trying to gain access to your accounts.
Right, right. I do all of those things, but I'm going to be
Okay.
more careful when I go back to Pakistan. Jurre, thanks for your time this morning, and I really appreciate it. Great work on the report.